Welcome to the Microsoft Azure Administrator Training. The focus of this course is to prepare you for the Microsoft Azure AZ-103 exam. But even if you're not going to take the exam, this course will help you get started on your way to become an Azure Administrator. My name is Anand Rao and I am a Microsoft Certified Azure Expert. The AZ-103 exam tests your knowledge on 5 subject areas, and that's how I have structured this course as well. We will be getting started with Azure Powershell, Cloud Shell and the Azure portal, making sure that you get familiarized with the interface. You will also learn various ways to communicate with the Azure portal. It's important to get this right, otherwise you could end up with several issues. Next, we'll be implementing Azure Virtual Machines and Virtual Machines availability. You will learn how to deploy and manage virtual machines running either on Windows or Linux operating systems. Creating a new virtual machine on Azure is pretty easy, but this section shows you how to deploy virtual machines at an enterprise level. You'll learn how to automate the deployment of virtual machines using Azure Resource Manager. You will also automate configuration changes using desired state configuration and back up your virtual machine using policies. You will see how to set up high availability and auto-scaling. Next, we'll get into implementing and managing Azure storage. This section shows more than just Azure storage. It also covers how do you set up file shares using file sync and how to implement backups using Recovery Services Vault. One of the most important sections that we'll be configuring next is virtual networks. This is the biggest section in the exam. Again, this is about setting up enterprise-grade networks. You will learn how to connect virtual networks together using VNet peering and virtual network gateways. You'll also learn how to configure both private and public DNS zones for name resolution and how to secure your virtual networks using network security groups. It also covers advanced virtual networking. An important part of this section is showing different ways to distribute an application's load across virtual machines. One method is to use Azure Load Balancer and another is to use Azure Application Gateway. We'll talk about the Layer 4 and Layer 7 ways of balancing TCP and UDP workloads. Under the monitoring section, we'll talk about Network Watcher and what are the new features available in Network Watcher to help you troubleshoot your network issues. You'll learn how to integrate your on-premise network with Azure Network using VPN gateways and ExpressRoute. Finally, we'll cover identities. This section is all about Azure Active Directory, which is a managed version of Microsoft Trusted Directory Services software. Of course, you will need to know how to add users and groups to it, but Azure AD has a lot more to cover. Azure AD has all the tools required to keep your organization secure. For example, one practice that has become very popular is multi-factor authentication. This is where the users have to use more than one authentication method to log in. You'll also learn to sync up on-premise Active Directory and Azure AD and single sign-on. There are other important services like data protection, governance and compliance, and data services. Well, that's a lot to cover. Let's get started.